It's Podquester time now, it is Podquester time.
Hello, friends. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Geneva, for joining us tonight on Podquester to talk about this latest episode, Date Night. I'm date night ready. You look date night ready. Geneva and I have, I think a very similar mindset when it comes to, date night. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So
definitely a good point, Suzi. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this episode. So much happened, though. I feel like a lot of chaos, a lot of names were thrown out. Definitely a crazy ending to the episode, a lot to unpack. But yeah, I was really excited to see the date night because I think it's really cool to see those one-on-one connections and seeing really how people use that 3 minutes that they have with each individual in the game.
Right. Yeah, I think it's about 30 to 5 minutes, closer to 30 minutes. And I have to admit, I live for the looks. So we did see a very similar pattern in looks, a lot of pattern shirts this year. So
yeah,
many years back, we will look back and be like, oh, the funny fashions of 2020. But I thought they looked good. I thought everyone looked good.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if they were kind of given a hint, maybe you should pack something, or was it just whatever people threw in their bag and they're like, okay, well, I have this shirt and I'm just going to wear it and go along with it.
Well, I think that they just all know Sequester, and date night's a staple of Sequester. So they were like, just in case. I thought Billy looked really good. Her hair was up and I was feeling that.
Yes, I did love her look. I really loved Muna's look as well. Natalie had a cute dress. I know Marcella wasn't sure if it was a dress or a skirt or whatever it was, but that was quite funny.
Yeah. What happened? What's happening in your life, Marcella, that you don't know the difference between a dress and a skirt? What's going on? How have you managed to avoid every single television show, magazine, and or store in the world? But yes, I mean, folks were looking cute. Josh had on them shoes. It was weird, but when he was sitting back in his final conversation, I think with Marcelo, and he had his legs crossed, I was like, I see a whole look here. It's cute. Yeah. So I was feeling everybody's look, but unfortunately, that was not what we were here for. We were here to eliminate somebody, take somebody out. I thought, what did you think of the original kind of start rooms? What is the strategy to go into date night, really, when you think about, you only have one chance to talk to each other, and then you have to execute a plan based on that information that you're going to continue to get. So what do you think is the best strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I were to approach date night, what I probably would do is with the people that I feel really good with and that I have strong connections with, that's where I would work on building those because, there really isn't a lot of time outside of the rounds to really strategize and kind of set your plan moving forward. And this is kind of the point where you got to figure out who do I really want to go to the end with? Who am I taking out and when am I taking them out? So I feel like this is kind of a time where maybe kind of what Spencer was doing this round, he kind of more shook his head and nodded and agreed. And I think that's probably what you need to do with the people that you're not closely aligned with, because maybe you don't want to get yourself necessarily in trouble if they say something to somebody else that like a rumor spreading. But I do think that this is probably the time where either if you're kind of on a rocky fence with an ally and you want to fix it, that's where you do that. But I think it also is a perfect time to be like, what names have you heard? What am I doing? Maybe push a certain narrative that you want to push. And I feel like we kind of saw that in this episode, especially with Jacob. I think he kind of wanted to push a certain narrative and he kind of made sure that everyone was kind of either going along with it or that he would be able to cover his tracks.
Yeah, I think that was really interesting because I agree with you. For me, this is not a strategy that I would have employed as far as like making a move. I think that this is around to gather information. You get so much good information based on who's throwing out what's name. And like, yes, they can throw it on somebody else, but they're willing to say that name to you. So it gives you kind of a lot of ideas of who's an ally. And it also gives you a chance to lock down. And we saw some really good lockdowns. I think the first lockdown we saw was Josh and Natalie and Brendan. Brendan and Josh solidified the final three, and they both agreed to take Natalie as their final three. Did that work out? Not so much. But Josh thinks it did. And I don't think it was a bad ploy on his part to try to, like, I think that those are two people Josh could beat.
I agree.
And I think that it was a good way to use his time. And it also did solidify his feelings about Natalie, even if Brendan and Natalie can't get on the same page. It did solidify his feelings about Natalie as far as Natalie did what he said he wanted her to do. So that gave him a lot of good information, at least.
Yeah. Although we did kind of see, I think from Natalie, she was kind of like, well, like for me, I might not necessarily be about that three per se. But I do think, kind of like you're saying, I think this is basically a round two where it might be good for you to try and form as many strong bonds as you can, many deals as you can, because you don't know what's going to happen in a round. You may lose somebody. So then you can be like, okay, well, I'm going to default to this other plan. Or I'm going to switch it up based on what happens in the game. But it's good to know that you have certain people on your side and that there are people who are willing to keep you and bring you further in the game. So I really do feel like this is a really more set yourself further as you move on type round, rather than what you said, like, oh, make a big move. But I do see, like, for Natalie, where she was kind of like, I need to do something on my resume to make me stand out. I don't want people to think I'm just like here or a floater or anything of that regard. And I think, it really took her going into a battle match earlier this season for people to start to think of her as a player. She did try and make a move earlier on in the game, but I think this is kind of her time where she feels like, I need to do something that will make me, look like I'm a big player, kind of like, a Jacob or a Muna or somebody of that regard.
Yeah, that was a little confusing to me because it's still Jacob's move. It's if you think it's a good move and you want Muna out, I understand that, but you're not putting your name on that move. Yes, you can say I was one of three people, but it wasn't your plan and it wasn't your narrative that you pushed. All you did was throw the vote. Now she did I think talk to Billy and kind of she basically only had to tell the truth to two people, so it wasn't that different than a normal round. So for me, I wasn't that impressed with her going along with the Muna thing, and I don't see how having Muna out of the game benefits her unless she wants all big targets out, but she wants to sit next to Jacob Jones. So I don't understand that thought process. Like, why would you want to sit next to Jacob Jones instead of Muna? They have equal chance of beating you. And Muna's, and yes, Jacob's saying he will take you, but Muna said she'll take you too very far. And also, if you don't want to sit next to her, you wouldn't want to sit next to him. I mean, all you're doing is benefiting Jacob's game, is how I felt about it.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. I think for her, I understand thinking like, okay, well, Muna's a big target. She's someone I should get out. But I feel like we saw with Muna in this episode, she seemed she really likes Natalie. They have that, Minnesota connection, and she really likes her and, feels at ease with her. So I think by doing that and getting her out early, not only do you get out a huge shield in the game, but you also, potentially lose an ally. Like if Muna finds out that Natalie was one of the people who were targeting her, Muna might come for her too. So I just felt like I get the idea of wanting to get out Muna, but I also felt like for a lot of people, I don't know if that was necessarily the right time in the game to do it.
I agree. And I also feel like, I mean, if you're going to get out big people just to get out big people, again, what's the plan is what because she's also like Brendan's next. And I'm like, where does that fall on your, I don't see her overall plan is what I'm struggling with. Like, I don't see her making alliances to make alliances. I feel like the shot at Muna is arbitrary, you know?
Yeah.
And she should have been going for Brendan. They don't trust each other. Take out somebody who is a winner threat. Brendan is a winner threat because he's persuasive as hell. He's very smart and he's very charming. He is kind of floating, like, and that's his strategy. We'll talk about that in a minute. Right. But like his strategy is to kind of do this floater game, and that is more dangerous to Natalie. I don't know. I would want to sit next to Brenda for now. I just don't understand her, like what her path forward looks like, and I'm having such trouble. But if you're gonna make the shot at Muna, why not Brendan? Just because Jacob Jones said so?
And I don't know, because it seems also like Natalie has a very conflicting relationship with Jacob. Like, she knows like she shouldn't trust him, but then she also listens to what he has to say. So I don't know. I feel like it seems interesting because it seems like Natalie is trying to form certain connections with people, but then all those people I feel like she kind of wants to target. So I really don't know right now where her allegiance really lies.
Yeah. She and Billy talked about that final possible 6 or a little bit in the last episode. Now, neither of them kind of like verified it's at 6, but they both have the same number in their head. And she says, I can't betray Billy again. And then she takes a shot at Muna, which she knows Billy would see as a betrayal.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm
piss off 2 of your allies for Jacob Jones's game. I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because even I think Josh seemed to have thought about his vote when he voted. Yep. He's like, I don't want to isolate Billy. And like, obviously he made like a deal with Billy. So I think that's where I feel like, what if Natalie's vote was exposed? What was she going to say?
What was her like reasoning? What was her justification? Would she have thrown Jacob under the bus? Would she have been like, he wanted me to? That was his plan. He said we were going to lie to everybody. Like, I mean, I wanted, like, we got some confessionals with her. We got a lot of time watching her in the date nights, but I need more confessionals. I don't understand everyone's brains. And this for me was really interesting because I just feel like, I do feel like, she seemed to kind of regret it.
Mm-hmm.
But, especially once Muna kind of gave her speech. But I do think that Natalie is getting kind of confused the more she plays. Started out to me like really strong, not socially, but analytically. And now I have a harder time. I still think she has good reads on people, but I'm having a harder time seeing what her overall game is.
Yeah. Because I think what it is right now in the moment is it seems more like the gameplay that she's doing is more she's thinking about individual rounds rather than the whole picture. Is why I think, like, for example, maybe she would have, if she thought about the whole picture of the game, she might have been like, oh, maybe like I should get out Muna later, but I know that Muna has trust in me and will be an ally to me. So I'm going to keep Muna, one, as a shield, but also as an ally because she's all about, us Minnesotans working together. We have that, same state, same city connection. And that's something that I could build on. And right now, I don't really feel like even though Muna is usually, considered a great social player, I think because she's getting herself back into the game, a lot of her relationships are pretty fragmented. So I feel like maybe a move could have been getting out someone who's more, interconnected rather than Muna. Because I feel like she, even though she's in the game and has some allies, it was pretty clear in this episode that a lot of people, didn't necessarily, I guess, have that type bond with Muna as they did when she was in the earlier part of the game, because she had already left and just come back.
Yeah, I do think that, the time apart did hurt her relationships. I also think that, you look at Muna and you look at Katie, and like they breathe and people are like, big threat. Big threat. And it's like, come on. When, like Muna said, Jacob Jones is a two-time winner and he's right there. So I don't understand the logic of what's happening. But I do think that, once they get that label, they can't shake it. And I think that's also hurting their relationships, because I don't think anyone wants to sit next to Muna in the final two. Not even Billy. Billy made that final two with Josh.
Right.
So it seems like I don't think that Billy was going to like ever cut Muna, but I don't think she wants to sit next to her in the final two either, Which I feel, Muna girl, I love you, but I don't want to sit next to you in the final two either. I do, because aesthetics and looks and beauty, and that would be amazing.
I would sit next to Muna in the final two, but that is a threatening idea to even consider.
It's hard to say if I would want to, would I want to sit next to Muna in the final two, as far as yes, that would be amazing, and I would think it would be fantastic. But if I had my choices, no, I want an easier beat. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, somebody I know I can out-talk. I can out-talk so many people, and I'm not going to say I can't out-talk Muna, but I'm going to say I think she'll give me a run for my money. And it would be oh, they would have to, they can't mute you in real life, Sequester. What do they do?
No. But it's true. And I also feel like Muna just has an amazing story arc in the game, especially at the end of this episode, that if she makes it to the end, I feel like it would be really hard to not kind of give her the win. But I also wonder, if she were in the final two, would people consider her coming back into the game to discredit her game? I know that could be a potential, but I also feel like she has those connections on the jury that I feel like people would want to give Muna the win if she was managed to make it to the end after, being eliminated from a battle match initially.
Yeah, I think that, there are very few people who could say that I don't think that anybody's going to get to the end without saying they got pulled into a battle match or were voted out.
Right.
So it's basically the same as Muna, except for she got time with the jury and she had an extra battle match. So I think it'd be very difficult to use that against her. Right. I feel like she just sent somebody to the jury too who would vote for her.
Yeah.
So yeah, she is a huge threat now, but she also is somebody to pick up, just like Spencer. Just like Spencer's a huge threat because of he can say, I won all these comps. Is that enough? It doesn't seem like it based on the jury.
Right.
The jury is not feeling that narrative, but I think she makes a compelling argument about why they should work together, as far as they do both have strong narratives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
yeah, no, I feel like, Muna brought to light, I think, a couple, important things within the game. I think that her setting the tone of this episode with being we should target the people who haven't been into a battle match. I think that really, carried a tone for how people either maybe perceived whether they should vote her or not, or how people twisted it. Billy perceived it one way, Brendan took it another way. But also, I think that when it comes to the conversation that Spencer and Muna had, I do think that she really makes a good point. At this point, if she's just going to keep voting him in and he keeps winning, there's no moves that are going to be made. In addition, Spencer is a huge target in the game, and people are going to want him out regardless. So it's why don't we squash the beef that we have? Let's make a move so we have something on our resume, because right now it's aside from winning competitions, not a lot of people really have anything to really explain at the end, I do think that, Muna brought up a good point. It's really good for our game for us to work together. And especially now that, Spencer did not vote out Muna in this round. I feel like there's a potential that like Muna and Spencer could, actually legitimately work together and go far. I know right now she thinks that maybe he turned on her with the vote, but I mean, I guess that's unclear, of course, because it's like if you're trying to figure out who voted for you, sometimes it's like the people you would think is obvious, but obviously in this case it was like some people that she probably wouldn't have expected at all. So I do think that Muna made some great points in this episode about who should be targeted, or like, forming a bond with Spencer. I thought that was a smart idea for her game.
I loved it that they were in the first date together, because I think Spencer is very susceptible right now to, and I think we saw this throughout this whole thing. He has a lot of like back and forth feelings.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been wooed at all in this game because he's so aggressive. Like, and whenever people want to talk to him, like Muna's tried to woo him before. Shireen tried to woo him before, but he goes into like yell mode, and like threw them off, and they were like, "But bro, I was so like this is the first time like somebody has come to him and like been like, I want to work with you long term,"
right?
And he's heard it, and especially like in this kind of calm environment where no one's throwing out his name yet, he can kind of like maybe hear it, I guess. Because I do feel like Shireen was making basically the same argument to him, which is, I don't want to keep throwing your name out. It's boring. I'm not voting for you. And he didn't want to hear it. But so he heard Muna this time, like fourth, fifth time's the charm, I guess.
I guess
and so. That really did guide the rest of his date nights, I think. I think he was too scared to turn on that. He was like, I'm going to let her take the wheel on this and just do what Muna says.
Yeah, and I think that was, I think that also just followed the approach of how he took the entire round, where he's just like, people are like, what do you want to do? He's like, I just want to sit back. Like you tell me what to do. And I think right now, because the one thing that I guess my main criticism of Spencer this season has been that I think that he should be using that time where he's in Sequester, really think and process what has been going on and how to move forward. And I think that forming social connections and getting people to trust you is such a huge part of this game. And unfortunately, the way that he's been communicating with people, the way that he's said, well, I'm just going to win competitions to make it to the end. Social strategy and jury management is a huge component of this entire game. And honestly, if I were in a jury and I saw someone who made one or two moves, but who was, nice and respectful, versus the way, Spencer has been not necessarily been receptive to, because even, when Muna tried and when Shireen tried, he just wasn't receptive. I would give more credit to that person, because I think it's very important to, not make people dislike you. That's a huge part of the game, along with doing well. And I think there's not much strategy that's going on for Spencer at this point, because he keeps getting usually voted into a battle match. So I do think that he really approached this round really well. And it was very refreshing to see him, the way he like handled the date night. So I was really happy to see how he, responded to everyone he interacted with.
I don't know. I'm really frustrated with Spencer's whole "you tell me who to," because he did that the last round and the last round too. Even when he's been in danger, he's like, "You tell me," and it's like, bro, you got to say somebody's name, right? Otherwise, people end up voting for you. Haven't you seen that pattern happen? Like, all he had to say was Marcelo. It was such a there were three names. One person was in front of him, and one person was Billy. Just say Marcelo and move on. Like, it was.
Yeah, I do think moving forward, he definitely really needs to like make moves. And get people to make moves with him and try and build up numbers, because that's something he doesn't really have right now. But I can understand after all of the stuff that has gone on, he just kind of wanted to take a seat back. And since for once his name wasn't seriously out there, and especially since Muna was kind of like, it's boring to come after you now. And I think other people were kind of realizing, does it make sense for us to just vote him again? I know a lot of people were just like, let's just vote him again. But at this point, nothing's really sticking. So I think this was a round where he just, didn't want to necessarily put an even bigger target on his back. Not saying that that's the best thing moving forward, because you want to be able to have moves. But I also think, though, that he needs to start doing damage control, because he hasn't really been doing that. So I can see, in a sense, why he decided to, I see completely what you're saying, Suzi, because I think, you should be throwing out names. You should be trying to make moves. But I think Spencer has done a lot. And so, I can see why he tried to scale back this round, if that makes sense.
I don't know. I feel like there are two things happening here. One, Spencer is scared because every time he makes a move, he fucks it up. Like with this Brendan thing last time, right? Mm-hmm. Where he is, he did try to throw out a name to Brendan. He threw out Brendan.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. I don't know. Also, I'm like, didn't you have a final two with him? Why would you be throwing out your supposed final two's name? I didn't understand that from.
And then he continued to go through, and he was just like, any name. And this is not the first time we've seen it. And so I think he's scared to throw a name out because that backfired so terribly. But I also think this is how he plays the game, and it's so bad. You have to say somebody's name at some point. Pick the lowest person on your list and say their name, even if they're not actually your target.
Right.
You can't, if somebody's saying, I'm going to vote you, which is essentially what Brendan said, and guess what did?
Mm-hmm.
Spencer could have gone this route. It was one vote. There was one vote difference between him and Muna. Yeah. So I don't he may want to sit back and play chill, but he hasn't done shit, and it's screwing him over. Right. So he has to say something. He has to say something, or if he's gonna play a chill game, he still has to playing a chill game is not sitting there with somebody and going, "Who? I don't know. Who? I don't know. Who?" That makes people feel like you're more sus because you're not trusting them with the most basic of names.
Yeah, and I think especially within a 3 to 5 minute type round with each individual person, and you can't talk to them again, you need to have something out there, because maybe I'm sure that maybe some people in their head were like, well, Spencer might not be saying anything to me, so maybe I should target Spencer because I don't know where his head is at. Or that might give the opportunity for his name to go around more than other people, that he could be targeting in the game.
Yeah, I would have been. Josh ended up throwing his vote, which would have been, which was something we can talk about. But I think it would have been interesting if Spencer had gone this round too, to see whose vote he would have exposed and to see who he would have battle matched.
Right.
Because he ended up sussing out people more, which is hard to do when they were already so sus of you. He did solidify something with Jacob Jones. That seemed to overwhelm him. That was kind of funny. He was like, "Oh my God, you do?" I have been chosen.
No way. Yeah, that was definitely but I think that's good. I think that he's getting some progress. I don't know long term how he's going to fare in the game and who he will actually have, because I don't really feel right now he really has any allies per se. But I mean, I guess Jacob is the one kind of public one after what happened,
Yes.
episodes ago. And I guess, he does have Muna potentially, because, Muna probably feels really, but, I don't really know. Because, obviously Muna at the end of the episode thought, he targeted her. But considering what happened and who turned on Muna, who knows what's gonna, I don't know. I really don't know what's gonna happen. But I
don't know either.
We're definitely not gonna be a final two. I don't see like that realistically happening. But I think that, you know,
that would be a hard-earned final two. To get both those men to final two, oh my god, they need more than just that. Oh my god, I just realized Luxury Row is back open because Jacob used the battle match.
Yeah.
It's a battle match, cuz I will be.
So.
Oh my god, I'd be like, come for her! I dare you.
Also, it's crazy how like Spencer has gone in every time. And I mean, like part of it was because of either timing or him choosing the wrong box. But like, I just think it's funny how he's gone in so many times and hasn't gotten anything. But I do wonder though, if the people who've been to Luxury Row like have like wondered if he's had anything, but maybe they don't necessarily think he does, considering he hasn't used anything. So
he hasn't used anything, but he does think he's a comp beast. Right. And now that he's been 3 times, I feel like dude has to have something.
Right.
Like 3 times, he must have something. But it's so weird that he hasn't been talking about it. And we talked about this a little bit a couple of episodes ago, when like Josh and Jacob were the other choices, and or I guess that was last episode. Time is moving weird. Mm-hmm. We're in the middle of a pandemic with an insurgency on the horizon. Sometimes time gets weird, okay? But I mean, we talked about a little bit with like when Jacob and Josh were the other options, how they had potential, they both had advantages. And it would have been Spencer's benefit to say somebody here, Natalie, Josh, or Marcelo, or 2 of them have an advantage that I don't have. Let's flush it. So I don't know why somebody who's been 3 times and gotten nothing hasn't been like, hey, y'all, BTW, there's like a Luxury Row thing, and you can pick it when you win your thing. And so one of these people have it. Like, he has nothing. He only benefits by throwing the shade on other people.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite shocked that like he's been in there so many times. I don't know if he just wants to keep it like a hidden secret bond type thing between all of them, but like I haven't even really seen him talk about it with anybody. So I don't really know why he hasn't said anything or exposed it. And I'm actually quite surprised that Josh's potential LOS that people were kind of thinking about in the last episode did not come up at all. I mean, I guess maybe it's because the focus went on other things, but I'm intrigued to see if that'll come up next. But I was surprised that it didn't, like, no one really had that thought really in their mind during date night. But
yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting because if he thinks that's a bond, it's not a bond that's working, because Natalie has voted for him every single time except for this time. Expose her ass. You know what I mean? You're like, she's real calm for somebody. She might have an LOS. Like, expose people who are voting for you. Why are you saying on their good side?
But that's what I'm thinking. I don't think he's taking the time when he's not in the rounds to process and come up with a game plan. I think that's probably what he needs to do, because I don't know. I just feel like if he really thought about it in that downtime that he had, I think maybe he would have an idea of what to do, like how to approach, even though he doesn't necessarily know what round is coming, he would just have a general idea of how to approach it, or maybe like who he needs to talk to based on certain things that have happened in the game. But I don't really feel like he's processing what's going on. And I think that's the one thing that's, bothering me, I guess, because I'm like, if he just sat and reflected in the room that he sequestered in for like 10 minutes, he could be like, oh, wait, Luxury Row. These people have been there. And so this person, I keep going in and I'm not getting anything. That must be because somebody else might be getting something, right? It's not necessarily that I'm picking the wrong box. So who's gone in there? Oh, Natalie's gone. Josh is gone. Jacob has gone. I don't know. I just think he needs to take the time, because, aside from the time that they're in the rounds, they're by themselves. So I would be taking that time to think about the game, what I need to do, how to, what can I do to establish trust with other people, actually form social bonds with people. I don't know. I just feel like that's what I just want to see. Like, obviously I wouldn't be able to see that, but I would like to maybe know in a confessional, like, oh, I've been thinking about this and this is maybe what I'm going to do, how I'm going to approach this round based off of what I know.
I also feel like there's something that we have to acknowledge about that time that he's spending up there. And I think it's true of probably a lot of people in the battle match. They're not thinking about their next step. They're thinking about their damn speeches. And I'm so fucking sick of them. I'm sick of them. I get it. You're not here for a coronation. I get it. You want your applause or you don't want your applause. Like, those speeches are, like, people do have good sayings. I'm not going to, like, dump on the speeches altogether. But move past the speech to the next round, all right? Because I feel like people maybe be practicing a little too much in their mirror, talking to their handler, be like, all right, so you're them and I'm here and I'm going to say this. And when I get back, like, they're so focused on the vengeance part, you know, the fucking vengeance, as Katie Hopkins would say, that they're not thinking about, like, the game. And they're just they're stewing. And it's honey, it's not working for you. So I'm hoping Luna, like, maybe it's an attempt to hype yourself up, right? Like, maybe that's part of it. But I say stay hyped, keep your energy up, but think beyond the moment you get back and the look of their faces. Start thinking, what's next? Again, this is a do as I say, not what I do kind of situation, because my ass would be like, all right, first off, how dare you? You know what I mean? I came back from a battle match.
Yeah, like, you all suck. You guys are terrible. I don't know. But like, I mean, I get it. I get, like, it's like, you know, people, you know, either it depends on the scenario, but I guess it's like people might have voted you out or you might have been pulled in. And so, like, the fact that you're able to survive.
So far, it's everyone who's been voted out. Everybody's been voted, right?
Exactly. But, you know, it's this kind of thing where it's like, you know, I'm back and I'm back with a vengeance. Like, I overcame this. I won. So it's like, don't mess with me. I don't know. I think it's just this whole thing where maybe, I don't know, maybe people are trying to build their narrative. And I'm not really sure. I think sometimes I feel like some people are trying to give, like, motivational speeches, like, you know, don't do what people, like, are telling you to do what you need to do for your game. And it's I mean, it's entertaining, but also I'm just like, why are you doing this? Why are you guys doing this?
I feel like, you know what? I'm gonna take it back. I don't hate it because it is entertaining. That's true. It's entertaining. And I do think, like what you're saying, there are some moments where they're, like, speaking at general and trying to create, but move beyond it too. Like, that's step one, y'all. What's step two? They're like, step one, awesome fucking speech. Step two, question mark, question mark, question mark. Step three, win sequester. You know?
Yeah.
So I really hope that we get a little change up. I'm interested to see what Muna's strategy is going to be coming back, because girl is hot. She is heated.
And she has a LOS. So
and she has her LOS still. And Jacob now knows she has an LOS. And what did you think about that? That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I get in the sense why she felt, because she trusted Jacob, but personally, like, I don't know. I think when I have an LOS in a game, I don't tell anybody. I don't want there to be any way for anyone to find any reason for me to be a target. Because I wonder, like, after this all played out, I wonder if Muna, in the back of her head, is like, oh, wait, I told Jacob about my LOS. So maybe he's trying to send me, like, I know that wasn't necessarily what was happening because she was basically a target, you know, for the episode. But I wonder if she was thinking, oh, like, was he targeting me because, you know, I have an LOS in my pocket and wanted me to go home with that. So I think I just would have been hesitant. Like, I get why she, you know, told Billy about it, but I think just because of, I don't know, like, I feel like she feels like she's good with Jacob, but I still would have been on the fence with Jacob, considering I did call, you know, like, or Muna did call Jacob out in that moment. And even though he's like, oh yeah, I get it, it was survival mode. I would still feel like there might be a little part of him that might not trust me because she did really call him out there. So I personally wouldn't have told anyone probably about my LOS. So I just kind of wish she didn't. But I mean, I get why she did because she thought Jacob was really close to her. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have told anyone probably. I don't really see the point in telling anyone. You know what I mean? Use it when you need to use it. I wouldn't hate on anybody, any of my allies for not telling me they have an LOS. It is a great sign of faith.
Right.
So I could see her trying to repair her. But I just like, hey, I trust you so much. Like, look, now you know I have an LOS. So like, this is one of the greatest signs of faith you can give somebody in a game is to reveal that you have safety.
Right.
But that's gonna bite him on the ass too when he tries to be like, hey, it was you or me. If he really felt that way, all he had to do was say, play your LOS then. But he never said that. Like, if he really felt that way, like, that's all he would have had to have said. So
Right.
his little elaborate lies don't mean shit. They don't mean shit.
No. And then I can say that I was slightly surprised that no one really said anything. I don't know if people just didn't want to necessarily get into the drama between Jacob and Muna, but I'm pretty sure most people like knew that Jacob was he basically told people like, I'm telling Muna, like, it's between, me and her. And then I told Billy that and yada, yada, yada. So I'm just like surprised because, Jacob also, I feel like it's very, very interesting that Jacob decided to basically throw out his own name. I don't know if I would have ever done that. I mean, I guess I get it for his plan, but I wasn't really a fan of his approach. I also just think that coming for Muna at that stage of the game when he knows that Muna has his back, like I just didn't see the logic in that. I don't know. I just didn't think the move really made sense for him, and I didn't think the move made sense for Natalie.
I agree. I don't like the move to me doesn't make that much sense when I still think he needs Muna at 4 to get to 2.
Absolutely.
I don't see how you can get to 2. And this is something that like Sharif and I talked a lot about in Winners at War 2. Both being 2-time winners, both being women, both being like bigger targets. I was like, you and I neither of us can get to 2 unless we're both at 4. And that drove that narrative for us. And I think that's true of Muna and Jacob. And I don't know why he's not seeing it. He sees a lot of who can I beat, who can I sit next to, who can I sit next to. I'm not seeing how do I get there from him. And it's super frustrating.
Yeah. Because I even like recently played like in a private and at Final Four, like I was there with Danny Butler and like he's won like 2 minis. So like I knew that I had to be there with him like strategically to make it to, Final 2 because you need those targets to easily target them at the end. And so like I was like, well, let's vote him, that sort of thing. But it's also a point where if it could also be a situation where you want to be there with a big target that you can also have as a voting block, depending on how the Final Four scenario goes. Because it can go
It could be you.
People can be like, well, it's you, and it's like, no, it's you, or no, let's work together and vote this other person. But I think that's also a thing where it's really important to make sure you have those bigger targets because it's like, okay, you get rid of Muna, so who's the biggest threat? Okay. Honestly, I see it as Jacob. Maybe Spencer, kind of, but really Jacob. Jacob is the most socially connected person in this game, and he's a 2-time Sequester Mini winner. So I just think that he could easily be targeted fairly soon. So I don't know. I just think you need to keep in those shields. You need to keep in those bigger threats in the game. And then if you need to take them out, then you take them out when it's safe to take them out and other people will take them out.
Yeah. And you take them out publicly.
Yeah.
instead of like hiding in this weird way he's doing, which would allow other people to take credit for his thing too. Natalie can put her name just as much on like if he sits next to Natalie, I think Natalie will defer to him and be like, yeah, that was his plan. If he sat next to me when he made that plan and we were sitting final two, I'd be like, no, it's my plan. I would have lied up and down. I would have taken claim for that plan as much as him.
I've been like, I pushed that name. I told him I wanted her out. This is what I did. Yeah, he did all that stuff and said this stuff to, you know, make you try and think that you didn't.
I convinced him to use his own name as a shield. Like, I think there was too many ways for that to backfire.
Exactly.
But also, I just feel like, you know, he thinks Spencer is his shield at 4, is what I think. And Muna's saying the same thing. But what I fear that neither of them are realizing, and I'm not sure Muna is as committed to the Final Four as Jacob would be wanting to see Spencer in a Final Four. But he's like, oh, if Spencer's my shield at Final Four, I'm like, here's the thing, Jacob Jones. You made a Final 2 with Spencer, so he would drag you if you voted him out.
Exactly.
And also, nobody's going to vote him out because everybody would want to sit next to Spencer. Name one person who wouldn't love to sit next to Spencer. He pissed off that whole jury, and all he's done is battle matches. Like, he's never.
I'd be like, okay, first of all, I have just saying I have social connections with you all. Like, and all he's done is just won competitions and made no strategic moves. And there you go. You get the W. Yeah. So I definitely think that you want to sit next to Spencer essentially in a Final 2, even though clearly, like, you know, a lot of people want him out of the game. You know, I think in a sense, I can see why people would want to bring him essentially because he's not focusing on that jury management and that social awareness. And I think that's really key. And that's what he really needs to focus on moving forward if he wants a shot, if he wants a chance. But yeah, I don't know.
I honestly think Jacob would probably win sitting next to Spencer, but I don't think it would be the blowout he thinks it would be. Not right now. Certainly not right now. He's just took out 2 women. Spencer is taking out 3 women. They're all in the jury. What does he think? Like, I guess he didn't take out Muna because Muna won. But, like, if they're all in the jury, does he think that they're happy with him? Or they think that he's playing a strategic game? His game is not seeming that different than Spencer's. It's strategically better. Like, he's playing strategically better, and that would get him the win over Spencer. But socially, he's fucking everyone over. And, you know, I said it in the first episode. I said, you know, Marcella's getting all the snake-like noises, and Jacob Jones is clearly the snake of the season. Yeah. So he'll get his win, I feel like, if he does take Spencer, and they somehow get there. Like we said, how likely is that? But I don't think it's going to be the blowout. I think he will be he's the villain of the show.
Yeah,
he is surpass Spencer in the villain edits. I think for sure.
And then even with this now, it's like Muna's like, I'm done with you, and this was also just like because of what their relationship was like prior to this game. You know, the fact that he went the way he did about it, I mean, I get how he was trying to cover his tracks, but like, you know, Muna saw right through it. She saw right through it, and I'm glad she did. And she's like, no, I'm done with you, because I just feel like for Jacob, that just didn't make any sense for his game. It just didn't make any sense for his game. She is putting this trust in you. She literally told you she had an LOS. So like, I would get from that she's not coming for me. She's not someone I need to worry about. I can worry about her down the line if I need to. But like now, Final 8? I don't know.
And for what? You know what I mean? Now you're sitting in the house with 7 people and several of them are pissed at you because you totally betrayed them and you betrayed what everyone perceived to be your biggest ally. So Like, that's the other thing. Natalie, if he's turning on Muna, if you come up as a threat, he's coming for you too.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of hard to like see his path forward too, especially now that Muna's coming back. Because I do think he could almost convince Billy. We saw Billy at the end kind of falling for a little bit, which was like, you let them get in your head. You let them get in your head. And like, no, maybe he planned it all. There was no good. Like, he tried to pull the Natalie Anderson, right? Like in Survivor, when she was like, "Oh, I thought we were supposed to vote this way. Oops, totally voted out one of your allies. My bad." Like, I mean, honestly, the better move would have been to be like, "I thought you were playing your fucking LOS. I thought you were playing your LOS. So I vote."
Yeah, that actually makes more sense. Yeah, I threw a vote on you because I thought you were play your LOS because
you were safe. I thought you were safe, and I've been like, I don't want, and whisper in there, I thought I was throwing my vote. You know, that would have been the move. Like, oh shit, I screwed it all up because of the miscommunication. You know what I mean? But instead,
yeah, I mean, but I feel like, you know, even though I feel like Billy
is gonna be like, he's a liar, and whose side is Billy gonna take? She's gonna take Muna.
It's gonna be Muna Abdullahi's side, 100%. And like the thing too is like, what is the justification? I feel like there's like, I don't feel like unless Muna was like throwing your name out there, I don't really see necessarily the justification of voting Muna when she is your, you know, when she is your ally or supposed ally in this game. And there were many other names that were out there, and Billy was like, yeah, it wasn't just your names. It wasn't just you and Muna. Like there were at least at least 4 names, if not more, that were being.
Like, the only other name I heard was Spencer, and she was like, "Then where was your vote on Spencer?"
Exactly.
So you said you'd rather have Muna go than Spencer. It's what I'm hearing if I'm Billy and if I'm Muna. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it just doesn't add up because with the whole speech, you know, to Billy, you know, he's like, well, you know, I understand, like, if you throw your vote on me, because, you know, I understand like your relationship with Muna, but then it's just like, oh, okay, but then you throw a vote on Moon, like.
He's like, I want you to. He was like, I want Muna to survive, so vote for me over Muna. But I'm not going to vote for. But I'm going to vote for Muna. He's like, I had to because of survival. I'm like, then you're not making any sense. Like, if Billy didn't vote for you, why would you have to? Like, you're not making. It doesn't make sense. Like, do you want Muna to go or do you want you to go? Because they're two contradictory like things I'm seeing here, and it's not adding up, bro. So I mean. Jacob Jones is a very persuasive person. Is he going to slide out of this? I doubt it.
I don't think so. I think the damage is done. I can't see him necessarily getting out of this. I don't know where this is going to take him. I don't know what Muna's impact is going to be moving forward in regards to this. I mean, I'm glad she has that LOS. But I think it is interesting though.
We've been talking for an hour already.
Yeah. You know, we got invested because, you know, there were so many, I don't know.
We haven't even talked about so much yet.
Yeah, I know. There's so many webs in this episode. It's just crazy. I mean, you know, everyone had an individual conversation with everybody. So they were all saying different things, and, you know, some things were true, some things were half truths and stuff, but it'll just be interesting to see, you know, moving forward, really how this impacts Jacob's game. But it is interesting because Jacob does know about her LOS.
Yeah. And I also will say, I think that what we also saw here was a lot of priorities coming to the forward. Natalie's priority is to play the game. That's coming up against her priorities of loving people, and it's hurting her. We're seeing that. Natalie doesn't want to be an emotional player, but she's an emotional person. And I love that about Natalie. I think that Natalie's been one of my favorite people to watch since the beginning. I think that, you know, she's kind of been undersold a little bit. So, you know, her being hurt by her own choices was something I felt. And I think that, you know, the way she regretted it so deeply was really beautiful to see. But the fact that she kept playing the game as a gamer, I'm like Like for me, she's hitting that balance of like, oh, she's got emotions, but also she does what's best for her game. Even though, like again, like I said, I don't really know what's
Like, was it best for her game? I don't know. I mean, I think it's this killer strategic move. I just don't know. Like, was that the timing? I don't
was it necessary.
know. Was
For
it?
me, but then we also see Muna, like she said, her priorities are friendship, her priorities are representation, her priorities are game, but that's not her first priority. Like she has game on her list of priorities, but
Yeah.
it's not her first priority. And we see that Jacob Jones has the inverse. Game comes first for him.
Mhm.
And I think he has sacrificed a relationship for game. I don't know if he realized he sacrificed a relationship for game, but I think that I do think he was in a hard position. If you want to play a hardcore game and one of your best friends shows up, how do you live with that?
Yeah, it's tough.
And not just one of your best friends, but one of your best friends who could beat you.
Yeah.
Like obviously, if it's one of your best friends who can't beat you, he's playing like he is with Marcelo.
Yeah.
Keeping him close. And by the way, was this edit made to like have Marcelo look like that? Like there was just chance after chance for people to shit on Marcelo because he was like, play a game, or I'm so proud they're finally playing, or yeah, you're a floater, or I'm so proud that she's finally realized and woken up. And it's like,
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know.
like, bro, what the fuck have you done? Like, as Muna said, don't show up in sandals and say you came to play. Like,
really, like I guess I didn't even like pick up on that in the last episode, but that's really funny. Like that is really funny. Like you're that like that confident, you're just not even getting to show up. You gotta oh my gosh, I don't know. I just thought that was super. Well, for me, like my experience, like I played a mini with Marcelo, but he wasn't snaky at all. So like seeing him as trying to make himself as this snaky figure is kind of weird to me personally, just because in my experience with Marcelo, I felt like he was a pretty nice, sociable, like honest, loyal player. So it's very interesting to see like the different, I guess, either his perception of himself, other people's perception of him, and how
we're seeing like a disconnect. We're having some like dissonance here where Marcelo's like, I am a snake, I'm playing hardcore. Like whenever he talks to somebody, he's like, it's like you and me, and I'm a huge threat just like you, and we're the same, and we're running this game. And every time the person's like, no, baby, you're not. Like, even Spencer was like, I was talking to Marcelo when I said you ain't doing shit. You playing scared. Like, Josh called him out. Like, every single player's like, so I don't know, like, to see him over and over again be like, they're worthless is just, you know what I mean?
That's where I would be very interested to see Marcelo in the final two to hear what he would have to say, because I feel like the perception of the players he's playing with, they're like, I don't see what you're doing. So I really want to hear like how he would sell himself to the jury and like explain his game. I don't know.
I want more confessionals again for the same reason. I need him to explain his game to us, the audience, because we're not seeing any game from him. So, like, at least Brendan's being like, I just want them to do my dirty work. I don't understand Marcelo's game that he thinks he's playing. Even he's throwing votes. Sometimes he's voting with the house. He knows he's in a good position, and he keeps saying that. And I think he is in a good position, but that's a very different position than somebody who's running the game. So I can't see, like, I was early on. I was like, yeah, Marcelo's doing this. He's staying back. He's throwing vote. He's doing whatever. It's not, but like at this point, he needs to start doing something if he wants to win. But also, he has to stop saying he's running the game because it's just not an accurate view of what's happening.
Actions speak louder than words. We just want to see those actions moving forward. So, I really like. I mean, I have confidence that he can show us that. I just want to see it more and hear in his confessionals more like what he's doing, like strategically. I do think one thing that I did like a couple episodes ago was like when he had that conversation with Billy and was like, you threw a vote on me. I'm putting my vote on you. You have to accept this. And I was like, I love that. I generally like thought, that's smart. Like, if someone throws their vote on you, like that's a smart way to, have them have to accept it and like, move forward with that person's game. So I thought that was like a nice snippet of us getting a sense and, having people have sympathy for him when he was up for elimination, in a previous round, and getting people to be like, no, we're not targeting you. So like seeing those sorts of glimpses of like him, using that, social capital, to get people to perceive him a different way, or, get to listen to him, or I think we're seeing little sparks of it, but I want to see more of it so I can be like, yeah, Marcelo is playing like this, phenomenal game. But right now I'm just like, yeah, he's good with people. But I think also now people are starting to be like, well, he hasn't really proven himself. And so,
well, yeah, he and Billy are the last two people who haven't gone in. And I think that, letting someone know that he's throwing a vote on them in episode 3 is not a game-winning move. I think that, like, avoiding the elim there wasn't a game-winning move when Spencer was like, again, like, these are good things early game.
yeah.
You got to step it up. You can't just avoid being voted in now. You have to make things happen. And like, as much as I personally hate Jacob Jones's move, like on a personal level as a fan, I was like, not Muna, not Jacob and Muna going against each other. My heart. Like on that level, I hate it. Like Jacob Jones tried to make a move this round. It feels like it blew up in his face. We'll see if he can put it back together. But he's doing more work. Like, I honestly think Spencer and Marcelo final 2. I think that Marcelo wins based on his social connections, but I'm not sure how many other people he could beat right now.
Yeah, it would be. I think really it's going to be crucial to these next couple of rounds on how he sets himself up and who he's working with, really, and we just need to see him take the forefront in a round.
Yes, I want him to run the game. I want him even just one round run the game, or like Natalie had more of a hand in this elimination than Marcelo.
Yeah.
So I need him to be at the forefront of a something, and stop letting Jacob play his game for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I need Natalie to do the same thing, but at least Natalie has side alliances and is giving us like a little more in the confessional, as far as being aware of herself. Like, she's like, I do need to step it up. This is the problem. People aren't seeing my game. And I think Natalie could take this Brendan situation.
Yeah.
Natalie is the first one who put Brendan on the block, and he had nothing to say when she said his name. When she was like, you haven't done shit, but you have amazing relationships. You have relationships in jury. If one of them comes back, you've got good relationships with whoever comes, with Katie and stuff like that. Like, he was just like, what? Leave me alone. He could not rebut her. I think Natalie has a better narrative than Marcelo right now. Like, she could take claim for Brendan being in the hot seat. She could take claim for Muna, going home. If the two of them sat final 2, she could beat Marcelo if she articulates it right.
Yeah, I think Natalie has a really good narrative right now. And I think I think though, kind of like we were saying with Marcelo, I think we need to see her even more in the forefront. But the one thing that I really appreciate about Natalie is she's generally trying to play this game. Like, even if things don't work out for her, she's like, okay, well, that didn't work out, but I'm going to do something else. And that's what I really appreciate. Like, she's not, giving up. She's just adapting her plans and trying out something different. So I can't wait to see more from Natalie, because I think definitely coming in, I wasn't sure like how I was going to feel about her as a game player, but she's really impressed me, and I've really enjoyed watching her. And I love seeing, the gamer of Natalie, but also like we saw, the emotional side of her in the confessional. So it has been interesting to see that contrast and what she's thinking about. But I do I still do, like, kind of like we talked about earlier, I do question, though, was this the right timing to try and get out Muna, for Jacob and Natalie's game? Not
The
necessarily.
only thing, yeah, the only thing I can think about is what Jacob Jones said about Billy and Natalie about her being able to pull Billy closer. But she doesn't 100% trust Billy, so
Yeah.
I don't know how much that would benefit her to get out, especially this early. Like getting Muna out at 6 would be great because that guarantees you and Natalie for until like 4 probably.
Mhm.
Because y'all aren't going to vote out the 2 remaining women at 5. But I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's exactly true. We've seen that argument not work on either of them before. So I'm not sure, but that's the only thing I can think of that's propelling Natalie to think about taking Luna out now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that was a good consideration. It's just more in my head. I was like, but considering recently you just said that you wanted to take her out at 6, Billy, I was just like, what's the intention of trying to pull in Billy for just 2 rounds and then like get her? I don't know. That's why I think
One
I just
round, right? It would be 7 next. It would be
well,
7 next round.
7 and then 6, like getting her out final 6, more like. So yeah, I guess having her for one round. So that's where I think I was just confused by it. Like I get the idea of like, okay, take out this person so this person comes to me, but then it's also like, but you don't have any intention of keeping Billy for the long term. So I was a little confused by it. So I think that's just like, I want to have a better understanding of why Natalie is making the moves that she's making. Like, I'm just getting more of a sense, like, I'm making this move because this is, like, she's the biggest threat. Muna did all these things in the early rounds and she has friends on the jury. So we need to get her out. So I get that. But it's also like, what do you get out of making this move of getting Muna out now? How does this help your game in the next round by getting her out now? Does that open up more relationships for you because you'll be able to connect with these other people? Like, what is your, I feel like there should also be intent. Like, I'd like to know her intention behind certain moves aside from, okay, I'm going to get this person out because they're a big threat.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let's just briefly talk about Josh.
Yeah.
I think Josh was sitting pretty this round. His name really didn't come up. He got a lot of confusing conversations and decided to throw his vote on Marcelo. He didn't care who went, to be frank. I think he would have rather Brendan and Mena stay. But I think that Muna wasn't one of his close allies, so it didn't hurt him that she might go. And he wanted to work with Brendan really badly, but I don't think that he's his number one ally either.
Right. And I feel like now, especially after that conversation towards the end, Josh has Billy. I mean, Josh is, I guess wondering about where maybe Muna might fit into that narrative. But I feel like the way Billy is playing the game, Billy is, pretty straightforward with how she feels about what she's going to do. So like if I were to have a conversation with Billy that went the way it did, I would feel confidence in that potentially working out. And I think probably also for Billy knows in her head that there is a probability Muna's not going to make it that far.
Yeah.
She is a huge target. So I think she's also trying to think, how do I set myself up for success? And right now, like Josh is, like even, at first he, I guess, was perceived to be, an outsider, but like he really molded in very well with the group once he won his battle match. Like he hasn't been a target, which I think is very impressive. So I think it's great that I think Billy is forming this connection with Josh, because I feel like that might be a realistic one that might stick in comparison maybe to some other groups that may fracture in the next round or two.
I agree. And it's also something nobody is seeing, which is super interesting. Like Jacob being like, oh, you need to bring Billy closer if you get rid of Muna. I'm like, she still has Josh, who she trusts a hell of a lot more than Natalie. And yeah, I think that is one of the cutest duos.
Yeah,
Period.
no, it's
They make
probably
me so happy.
honestly, I would love a Billy Josh final too. I would be
Oh, I would live for it. I would live for it. I would
so
be so happy.
fingers
Um,
crossed. I don't know. I mean, but obviously there are other people like if Moon
yeah,
makes
no, there are tons of like
I would love
variations.
no,
I would be so happy with.
but I would really like I would definitely not be mad with a Josh and Billy final two. I would be super excited about that. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think that yeah, nobody seeing this relationship is being so interesting, and I hope that plays out to fruition is part of it, right? But I think Josh has really good reads on the house. I think what he's saying about Spencer is really interesting and something nobody else is talking about. Now, do I think that Spencer's going to follow through to that logic? Spencer hasn't been known to be as illogical as Josh's thought process is, which is, hey, you look real bad picking woman after woman after woman and talking bad to them. You are screwing yourself. Maybe pick a man.
That's where in my head I'm like, this is the time where Spencer just needs to process things. But that's where it's like, Josh is, I think one thing interesting is Josh is processing other people's games. And he's like, well, like, I know that like this logically you. So he's not probably going to do it. He's probably going to do something else. And I'm like, I'm a huge fan of, analytical, logical thinkers when it comes to social strategy games. So I was loving all of, Josh's takes on, and perceptions in this episode and thoughts. So, but yeah, I think he's someone definitely to watch, and I think he would have a good shot at winning if he were to make it to the end.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I was like, come on, bro, is when he like threw that huge he was like, the house doesn't have a vote. The house doesn't have a vote. It's a building. And he was like, stop throwing your votes. Stop throwing your votes. And then what did he do? He threw his vote. And he was like, let the house decide. I'm like, I thought the house didn't have a vote, bro. I thought you couldn't throw your vote. So he might have been bullshitting. I can't remember who he was talking to at the time. Maybe Jacob Jones. He might have been bullshitting whoever he was talking to, and didn't really believe that. I don't think a smart strategist can say never throw your vote. It's about throwing your vote at the right targets and at the right time.
Right. And I mean, I think because Marcelo was a name out there, it was at least a strategically thrown vote. I feel like if he threw his vote on like Billy or something, that would be just outrageous and ridiculous. But I feel like this is definitely a round in a sense where I think some people might get away more with a thrown vote slightly because there aren't any conversations outside of those one-on-ones. But it's like, you got to make sure that thrown vote you do is a vote of a name that was like seriously said or considered. So, I understood, like, Josh was like, I'm doing this because, like, if it was exposed that Josh voted for Muna and like Billy and Muna formed a two, that would be awful for Josh. Like, that bond that he just formed with Billy would end. So I get, like, in this case, it was like, this is what Josh needed to do. But I guess then you could have also be like, well, then maybe you should have voted for Spencer or something. I don't know. But
I think that, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird he didn't vote for Spencer. I think he thought that it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And also he was afraid a little bit, I think, of being pulled into he had his LOS.
Yeah.
So I think he thought it wasn't happening, so he threw his vote on one of the names, like, not that he thought was going to go, but if they went, he wouldn't be mad at it. Like, he was like, hey, listen, if Marcelo goes, I don't give a fuck. He put me in exile.
Exactly. I mean, I guess it would be frustrating to vote Spencer in again and Spencer win. So then it's like, okay, half of the vote, like almost half the votes I'm making in this game, I'm voting, like, a bunch of people are voting for Spencer and it's not working. So then when you get to the end, what can you say you did? So, like, I can see where, in a sense, maybe for some people who were like, okay, there are people who were pushing, like Brennan was, saying like Spencer, but like, I think some people realized, like, yeah, we should go after Spencer, but we should take a slight break because we need to actually get somebody out of the game, like one of our targets out of the game, because that hasn't been happening. So I definitely understand why Josh threw his vote the way he did. But you do make a very interesting point where he was literally complaining about people throwing their votes. So
I'm a Josh stan. I am a Josh stan. I was converted. I will give Louis his props. Also, everyone, shout out to Louis. He's a little. His eyes bothering him still, so good vibes for him to recover. But I have to say, Louis was on the Josh train from day one, and I was like, okay. I didn't see his money, so I was like, all right, then. But I was converted.
Yeah,
I've seen the light. I will buy the merchandise. I am a Josh Mosh. And now I wish we had come up with a better name.
Yeah, we need a new like fandom name for the Josh stands, but Josh Mosh, like, it works for now. But no, I see it. I understand. I see what Louis saw in Josh. So, and Josh has been bringing. I don't know. I've just liked his energy on the show, and I love hearing his takes and what he's thinking about, because that's where I think, like, I really like to know the strategy behind the move and the strategy behind the gameplay, and that's really what I hope to see a bit more of, because I don't think, like, we've been hearing people's thoughts, of course, but I'd like to hear more about what's going on in the heads of the other Sequester players right now.
Yeah, I also would like to see some more of the jury. So I'm hoping, sometimes Sequester puts out some bonus material. I would love to see bonus of the jury. I would also love to see bonus confessionals. Those are the two that I'm like craving. Now let's talk about the fallen hero, Brendan. I was a big Brendan fan. He was my winner pick. My draft took a hit tonight. I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry. That's unfortunate.
But he's been on the block for a minute. Like, his name has been coming up. He's been in danger. He's had this has been my problem with Luxury Row. You don't have a chance to save yourself until it's too late.
Exactly.
And so this was my issue when Shireen got out. I was like, what could she have done differently? Literally nothing. What could Brendan have done differently? Literally nothing. Literally, I can't think of a single thing he could have done.
No, it's unfortunate because it was basically in Jacob's hands, because Jacob had the advantage, and he's like, I'm playing this and I'm pulling you in. So, there wasn't much I feel like he could have done. I guess, I don't know, maybe form a stronger bond with Jacob. I don't know. It's a really difficult situation, because at the end of the day, but I do think it was interesting, because I feel like, he did start to come on people's radars, because I think people were realizing, well, he's being social, but he's kind of just agreeing with things. And is he really playing the game? I don't feel like he's doing, there are just a lot of different things where people were just questioning, like, is he playing this game, or he is playing this game, or he might be a physical threat. So there's just a lot of whisperings the last couple of rounds of what Brendan could be in this game, but no one really knows. So in a sense, I was pretty disappointed to see him go, just because I really wanted to see more out of Brendan. But yeah, I think this was kind of just a tough situation, because if it weren't for Jacob's advantage, Brendan wouldn't have been necessarily in that position. So
I think that also, I'm a little surprised at Brendan. I think that in the minis, he's kind of an amazing player. Like, he's very strategic. He's very, this is what we're going to do, bro. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And he makes moves.
Yeah.
And he forms bonds. I feel like he's actually had a harder time than I expected switching to the live. I think that his game, I didn't know when he wanted to put it into gear. not just happy, but he wanted people to do his dirty work for him. And I understand that to an extent, but you have to put your name on things, especially when you think about what the jury's going to see.
Right.
This is very different than a mini or watching at home, because you can do things in those situations, and like a lot of people will see them and they can keep talking about them, and the jury will see more than just the one final moment. They get to see so much more of the game. And in this situation, the jury only sees what's happening at the elimination circle.
Right.
And Brendan's was not excelling in that space. And so and he wasn't making aggressive moves in the game. He was playing very similar to Marcelo, and they've been grouped together for a similar reason, but he had a bigger target on his head. And he wasn't really able to navigate that. And that also surprised me. I thought that he would spend a lot more time doing that processing and thinking. And I think he was thinking the next round. I don't think he was thinking as much about getting the target off his head. I do think that he thought he would have an easier time without Natalie, and that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he realized maybe how big the target was on his head, or I don't know. I'm excited to talk to him in the exit interview and really get his process. We will be doing the exit interviews. We've already done several, and we've got 2 left. Brendan, if he's able to sit down with us, and 1 more, and hopefully those will be out at the end of the week then, depending on Brendan's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to those. But I'm excited about his exit interview, because I think he was very impressive to me, and he was my winner pick. But there was something that was not translating 100% for me, and I was confused as to when he was going to start stepping it up. Maybe 6. People are really waiting until 6 to do something.
It seems like 6 is the number in the game where things happen or something. I don't know. I mean, I guess I get that, but I feel like because it I feel like because the whole game is essentially the jury phase, I think that this in comparison to a mini is much different, where I feel like you need to be making moves from a lot sooner. Like I feel like in a mini you can get away with just starting at final 9 and on, but because the whole game is basically the jury phase and the jury sees what's essentially happening in the game and knows it's probably getting updates each round and what's going on. I just feel like maybe Brendan didn't necessarily set himself up well. Like, he was friendly with everybody, but I felt like he didn't really, I don't know, make serious social connections and deals with people, or really get out certain plans, or I don't know. I feel like he was there, he was going along with things, which I get because you don't want yourself to be a target. But then I think too, then people question okay, if you're not being super, vocal and not making moves, it's are you playing this game? And I know a lot of people tend to think, maybe he could have been playing as a floater. I don't know if necessarily I would say yes or no to that, but I think that a lot of people start to have certain perceptions when they're not seeing you doing something or taking a serious stance in the game. And I just feel like I didn't get that too much from Brendan. And I thought I was going to see, honestly, more strategy. But I got from the beginning, he was like, I just don't want to be a serious threat. And so, we saw him doing silly things around the house. And that's kind of, the edit he really ended up getting was more just I'm the goofy guy that, is hanging out, chilling. But I kind of wish maybe even with that, exterior and trying not to seem like a threat, we saw that strategy, or or maybe a couple people he would pull in and be hi, okay, let's talk game, this is what I think that maybe we should do, we should go after this person because da, da, da. And then maybe to other people okay, I'm cool, chill, not doing something. But maybe he could have just been planting seeds or doing something, I think, a bit more to make sure he had some sort of impact, so people wouldn't think that he's an easy person to get rid of, because I think that's what it was starting to get to, where people are well, if he goes into a battle match, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they even said, they're if it's not going to piss anybody off.
Yeah.
And I think that I mean, I think he would have voted Muna if he had known it was going to be Muna.
Yeah.
The struggle is I don't know who his targets were. I don't know, like, other than like his like little feud with Natalie, I don't think anybody felt like, you know, he had like a clear path to the end.
Right.
So I'm eager to like, and you know, everything has to be edited. They can't like it was long tonight, which
Right.
I love.
No, I'm glad that people on Twitter, Sequester fans, voted for the longer episode, because I do really think, because we don't know really what's happening in most of their heads, I think this episode is very useful for us moving forward. Maybe we'll have a better idea what will happen at 6 now that we know, you know, some of these bonds.
Magic number 6.
But yeah, no, I think it was very important because we don't really get a lot of, you know, what's happening, and these rounds are so quick.
Yeah, and I will say it's a lot harder. I you know, I'm like giving the players a lot of shit because that's kind of like what we're here to do. I will say I think things are a lot harder than they seem. You know, we said, you know, you need to start playing hard, and then we also criticized people for cutting Muna too soon. So I think finding those balances is a lot easier from our seat. Like, let's not pretend it's not. But I will also say, you know, I still stand by both of those things. Like Muna, it felt too soon, but other people, they need, like for me, it would make more sense for Brendan to go after Muna, knowing that you'd still have Jacob as your shield. Like if that's what Natalie's thinking too, I can see that. But Muna's her ally. Brendan doesn't have an ally in Muna, so that's the difference for me. So, I mean, Brendan and Josh were like, let's just vote out Spencer, and I'm like, this is your first conversation. That's fine. Make a basic plan. You're not going to stick to it, whatever. But I need you to come up with a real plan at some point. And then he ended up just voting for Spencer. So I think that was disappointing. I also don't know if he wasn't allowed to fight back against the battle match pick, or if he just accepted it.
I think maybe he just knew, like, there probably wasn't much he could do, or maybe he was edited out. I don't know. My guess is probably he just knew at that point, like, and I feel like, yeah, it was a tough one, but yeah, I mean, I agree that I think definitely it depends on the player, and what their game is and what's going on in the game to, I feel like, know what the right timing is strategically in the game. So I think, you know, to what you said, Suzi, what might be a good move to take out Muna now for might not be a good move for another person. And I think personally, I don't think that taking out Muna at this stage of the game was good for Natalie or for Jacob, just because of the connections they have with her also at this point. I do think she is a person to take out later, because I think this game, it's really important to have those shields. And because Jacob is arguably, you know, like the biggest threat in terms of, you know, at least his status within the community and as a 2-time winner, I don't understand why you're getting rid of Muna so soon when you know you are the glaring target at this point. So that's just, I think, where it's confusing. But there are other people. It's like, yeah,
yes,
okay, it makes sense.
I'm sorry. I just had a moment where my earbud landed into my bra, so that's what happened there. No, I guess also, like, let's not get it twisted. There are a lot of 2-time winners. I'm a 2-time winner. Are you a 2-time winner?
No, I'm a 2-time final tour. I guess
you're basically a 2-time winner. There are tons of 2-time winners now. You know what I mean? Like, since the introduction, especially of the privates, there are a ton of 2-time winners. Jacob Jones is not just a 2-time winner. Jacob Jones was the first 2-time winner, and he was like, not to arrest Kim Matina, who won live and then won a mini. But he's the first mini 2-time winner, and he won Winners at War too, and won. He won against Muna. He already beat Muna.
Right.
Once, like, and they were in alliance then too. So I mean, there's a huge history here of Jacob Jones not just being another 2-time winner. Like, if a lot of people popped up in there and they were a 2-time winner, I'd be like, listen, we got a couple of us. Listen, we do have a group chat. It is very inactive, but there are like 20 of us in there. So like Jacob Jones is an exceptional 2-time winner. He was the first. His name is in freaking pink. Keeping up with the Joneses is real. So I mean, he's not just a 2-time winner. For people who are unfamiliar with Jacob freaking Jones, dude is a legend. And Muna is a legend. Muna and Natalie have played almost the exact same amount of times. The reason Muna is a legend is because of her demeanor and her skill and her
presence.
Her presence.
Yeah, her presence, her aura, just her being, I guess, like Muna was one of the reasons I started playing in minis. Like I saw Muna play. I even saw Sharifa play. I was like, like these are strong women who are very confident, who are really amazing strategic and social game players. Like, I want to try this. And then I did, and I've played in who knows how many minis at this point. But like that, I think that's also where Muna's reputation, I guess, has also been brought to light because she has that sort of presence as well. But she's been playing, in minis with Jacob too. So, but that's where I'm also like, Jacob.
She's not invincible. She's not invincible. Yeah, Muna has lost more times than she's won. Right. She's gone pre-jury. She's gone 6. She's gone 4. She's gone 3. She's never lost in a final 2, but we've got a long way to get to final 2 if you're Jacob, Jacob's lost a couple of times too. He went out early in shadows once he went in. He might have lost to somebody on this podcast. He might have been 3rd in somebody's first win. I don't know who could that have been? Who did he lose to? So I mean, they have a long history together, but they also have very comparable reputations, and I'm not positive what his way forward is. He doesn't think that Muna is a good ally. That's fine, I understand it, but it's really a marriage of necessity. And that's what Muna told Spencer. We don't have to like each other. I'm sure you're great. You seem nice, whatever, but we need each other. And his marriage of necessity was a lot more convincing than Brent's to Katie. Let's just say that. So, this was a hard round to watch. It was heartbreaking. We knew it was coming from the moment that Jacob said Marcelo's name. We knew he was coming for Muna and was going to turn on her. Yeah. It was satisfying to see Muna recognize it because she wasn't going to be made a fool. So that was satisfying, but I don't know what's going to happen next week. Fireworks, maybe literal fireworks.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm just so happy that Muna won that battle match. Especially,
but I miss Brendan too. I'm going to miss Brendan, and I will say it. I'm going to miss his top knot. I said it. I like it.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it was a sad one for me because I didn't want to see either of them go. But I'm like, Muna's story is not over. And I need her to continue to tell her story. And so I'm like, I'm it's tough that Brendan went in the way he went. But I was like, we can't lose Muna now. So, especially because she has the LOS. I want to see her use the LOS.
No, the LOS, that was the hard part for me. Like, honestly, I think there is a lot of, I worry a little bit about the pressure we put on Muna to tell her story, because I think that there are two things here happening. She's the only woman, she and Billy are the only women of color left, and there's a lot of pressure on women of color to be representation. It was funny to me when Spencer was like, I don't want to be the token here. And I was like, bro, you want to talk about tokenism? We'll have a conversation about tokenism. Going into a battle match, tokenism. But, I knew that's not what he meant. So I was, triggered hearing the word token. But so I don't want to put pressure on Muna to be a representation of any story. But just take on that pressure herself. And I will say that Sequester is not going to be the end of Muna's story no matter what. If she wins, if she loses, if Jacob Jones like takes her LOS and uses it on himself somehow, I don't care what happens. This is not the end of Muna's story. We are going to see Muna forever. This is a good time. Maybe TR, if you can put like her Patreon and like either in the description below or cross
Just make this
a little,
which is
like Muna. Yeah, Muna has so many stories to tell that this is just a chapter. This is not like this is a chapter for Muna. I want to see her win because I'm a huge Muna stan, and I think the story would be good. I want to see Josh win, like I said. I want to see Billy win. I want to see a lot of people.
There are a lot of people I want to win. It's like I want the first one, but I'm like, no, I'd really.
If Natalie won, I think that I would be like really like happy. You know, I mean, there are a lot of people I could see win this game and be very happy. If Marcella won, I would be like, what the fuck just happened here? I would need to see that whole story happen. You know what I mean? That would be some good TV.
We have some episodes left, so who knows? You know, maybe.
Exactly. We're only like halfway through. There's so much game left to play. There's so many people who we could be rooting for at the end. But I am happy Muna won because I love Muna. I don't, like, as a Muna personal fan, I think that she's got endless stories. So, like, this isn't it. Like, no matter what happens on Sequester, Muna's story will not be finished by Sequester. And I hope that everybody recognizes that. You know what I mean? Like, including Muna. Like, Muna, if you're out there listening, I know you're on your way to Madrid, and we haven't been talking that much lately since Sequester started. But your story's going, girl.
Yes, forever and always. No, like I agree with that. This is definitely not the end of her story, but I know that she knows that she has something that she wants to share with the world, and she knows that she's not done sharing that. And so, like, because she has that passion and that love to do what she feels like she really needs to do within this game, because it's, you know, she mentions not about winning for her. I just really want her to do what she is setting out to do, whatever that is. And so that's why it's just been such a joy for me to watch her play it in this season and see, you know, what's happened. So yeah, but it was
when it goes like this, I think I do get like a little bit more like, you know, my heart grows like 3 sizes. Every time she tells a man to stop talking and puts her hands like this, I get like, you know what I mean? She said, like, all right, girl. So I do love having Muna on my TV now. And I do think we'll see a lot of these players again. You know, Katie Hopkins, this is the last reality TV show we're going to see Katie on. I don't think this is the last reality TV show we're going to see Brendan on. I think a lot of these, you know, I think Sequester is one of the most interesting mixes of reality TV because we have people who would never play, like talking to Rachel in her exit interview. She was like, I'm such a passive reality TV fan. Mm-hmm. I never thought of myself as playing. And that's how I felt like going into the minis. I was like, I would never be on reality TV.
Right.
Like, endurance comp, oh well. Come on, bro. So you have people who could never or would never be on reality TV, who would not even apply. And then you also have people who you definitely will see in the future or who have already been on reality TV. Mm-hmm. So, and they're all got passion and they all got gaming. So it's such an amazing mix. And this isn't the end for any of them. I'm excited to talk to Brendan this week. Hopefully he wears the top knot.
Because that's a request for Brendan if he sees this before.
Yeah, if you see that before, Brendan wears the top knot. I dig it. Jatia dig it. It's what the ladies like.
It was perfect for date night. Perfect for date
night. Yeah. Anything to wrap up before we end this that managed to somehow be longer than the episode?
Well, you know, I overall thought it was, I know for some people it was probably long, but I felt like it was I felt like it was well needed and important because I feel like since we don't really get those in-depth conversations and really get a sense of what people are thinking strategically, especially people's individual relationships with other people, I think it was really great to see. In addition, I'm just really interested to see where this season goes moving forward, especially now that, Muna severed ties with Jacob. The potential of another Vantage coming into the game, and maybe Muna could get that. That would also be very interesting as well. But yeah, I'm really just intrigued to see where people go from here because, I think, Suzi, we talked a lot about people in this episode that we just want to see a bit more from. What is their strategic thinking? What are their plans down the line? Who are they really aligned with? Are they really aligned with anybody? Are they just playing round by round and doing just what they can to survive? So I there were elements of this episode I enjoyed. And, I think it was great that we also saw the sponsor where I'm in the episode and, learned a bit.
God, we didn't talk about the battle match.
The facts with, opioid addiction. And so I really loved what, Brendan had to say. So I'm glad that he also, even though he went out in the competition, he seemed to appreciate the value of the competition. It's good to, get a little education every now and then. Yeah, so I really did like it. And I
like his strategy too. I think that honestly he was kind of fucked because Muna is amazing at like this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think we did get to see a little bit of his strategic mind there. I think he was doing what he could do. And he didn't lose by a landslide. So yeah, but I thought it was a great way to bring together an important message and a fun and interesting battle match. Like that was one of my favorite battle matches of the ones we've seen.
I agree. And I also just in general liked his response to losing. Like he's like, if obviously it's not a great win, like a feeling to lose. I can't win them all, but if I could lose to somebody, it would be Muna. I think she's like the most deserving and he talked about her narrative, like, hope she pulls out the win. So like, I thought that was very sweet of him to say, because, I think anyone could take it, like, oh, I lost this is awful. Like, da, 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 da. So I felt like Brendan had great sportsmanship. So I definitely really
love to see him. And I hope we get to see some more of the jury because we have amazing people in the jury. So I would like to see some more jury, even if that's on the Patreon. Y'all hit up that Patreon if you can. Also subscribe to Podquester while you're at
it. Podquester, become a patron, support Sequester. Yeah, I think maybe my guess is maybe production was waiting until someone new came back in to like show us the jury. That would be my guess. But yeah, I would be very intrigued to see how the jury responds to Brendan coming into, the jury area, because it's not really, I guess, jury house per se, but the jury area.
The jury dungeon.
Yes.
Yeah. But all right. Well, I think that's it for us. We are looking forward to the next episode. It's just gonna get like more and more tense, more and more exciting, and bigger, I feel like. So y'all hit us up. You can tweet me at Podquester or at Suzi G and let me know what questions you have for Brendan. And I'll try to ask him a couple. But yeah, it was a great episode. It's one of my favorite episodes so far. It served looks, it served drama, it served a great match, and a very an ending that I was torn about. So. I mean, I'm a Muna stan. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. I wanted, like, when I thought she was going in, I wanted her back. But I also like Brendan, so it was hard.
It was a tough one. But, I think this episode definitely brought the entertainment in a different way. And I just like that we got to see some people just, I guess, respond differently than they normally would. Like, I actually really enjoyed that Muna Spencer conversation. I'm glad that happened very early on to see how that ended up affecting the vote and what happens. I'm intrigued to see what that will be moving forward in the next round and what their game relationship will be. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, and it was, for me, especially considering when Muna first competed in a battle match, she lost. I'm glad that she won this one and she's coming back with a vengeance. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next episode.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Geneva, and we look forward to seeing everyone out there. And then music. Do, 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 do,